Hi everyone, my name is Liz. I read, and welcome to another reading vlog. So in this reading vlog, I'm going to be reading 3 YA books. They're all sequels, if anything. I just happen to be in the middle of some sequels, so I thought I will dedicate this reading vlog to these 3 books. The first book is The Iron Raven. This is written by Julie Kagawa, and this is book, I always get confused, 8 in the Iron Face series. This is a brand new trilogy, I believe, because she usually writes in trilogies. And this is following our main character, Puck, who was in the previous novels. And it's kind of like his story, his adventure. And so far, so good. Book 1, we follow Megan Chase, and she's actually best friends with Puck. And Megan finds out she is half fae, and she goes on an adventure with Puck and some other characters to go rescue her brother in the fairy world. And so that's the setup of book 1, and this is many books later. I would almost say you don't have to read the other books in order to get into this, because I feel like the author explains things really well, where they are in the world and how the kingdoms are, I guess, are set up currently. And so I don't think it's quite necessary to read all the other ones if you don't want to, which I'm not surprised by, but happily to see. So I'm really enjoying this. I have a really soft spot for this series, and so I'm excited to be reading this. As you can see, I'm halfway through, and I'll talk about my feelings after I get to the other ones. The next book I want to get to is Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is book 4 in the Shatter series. I read the Shatter series, like the first trilogy, a few years ago now, I think, and I'm really excited to get back into this world to see if I like it or not. I've heard like mixed things, but I want to see how I feel, because I just really loved the first trilogy. It was just such a CW like show, and it was just really entertaining. I'm almost tempted to like reread sections of the original trilogy because there were certain things I specifically enjoyed. But in book 1 we follow Juliet, and her touch is lethal. That means if anyone touches her, they will kill her, and we start off with her being imprisoned, and when she comes out she learns that the world is very different. This is like a dystopian fantasy world, I guess, mostly leaning towards dystopian, and I remember having a lot of fun with the series, so I want to continue on. And lastly, I have Get a Clue, which is book 4 in the Bookish Boyfriends series. These are like basically standalone romances. I have read them in order, but each book is basically a retelling of a classic, and so we follow a main character, and the English teacher at this prep school gives the main character the classic, and the main character reads it, and along the way they fall in love. There's usually 2 classics kind of incorporated. There's like the main classic or main retelling, and then like a secondary classic they talk about. I know the main classic that is a retelling for this is Sherlock Holmes, and we follow Huck and Winston, and I believe it's their romance, and I guess they have to like solve a murder at the school or solve some kind of mystery. I'm not actually sure it's murder or not, but I'm really excited because I've loved every single book from the series. I've gave all of them, I think, 5 stars. The second one maybe more like 4.5 or 4 stars, but I've loved every single one. I'm a sucker for romance. I'm a sucker for retellings. The first one is still my favorite, A Date with Darcy, because it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. The third one is my second favorite, which is Talk Nerdy to Me, which is an Anne of Green Gables retelling, and then the second one so far is my third favorite. So we'll see where this stands, but I'm super excited to get to this. I should also mention this vlog that I also mention 2 other books. First off, The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo, and also Neon Gods by Katee Roberts. So this is my little TBR for this reading vlog, and let's just get on with the video. I do want to talk about my feelings for The Iron Raven so far. Like I said, I have a real soft spot for this series. I know it wouldn't be everyone's favorite because it is very like classic YA, traditional YA, where it's a coming age story for Megan, like referring back to the original trilogy. There's like the traditional love triangle and falling in love with princes and going on an adventure and everything like that, but I have such a soft spot because It's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of like traveling, there's a lot of action in these stories. I just love it. I still stand by book 1 and kind of book 3, I think. And then for sure book 4 I really enjoyed as well. And so far I'm really enjoying this. I haven't reread books 5 to 7, like the second trilogy, because it goes trilogy 1 and then there's like a not a standalone but kind of book, and then there is the second trilogy, and then this is like a new trilogy. There's a new threat to the Never Never, and it's making Kieran, who is Megan and Ash's son, really nervous. Kieran is the king of the Forgotten, who are fairy, who are kind of drifting away. They don't have their own glamour anymore, and basically how fae die in this world is they eventually fade away to nothing, which sounds very tragic, but there are some fae who are considered forgotten, who are kind of like, they're there but not 100% there. They're almost like shadows in a way. And so Kieran, he lives in the between where the forgotten are, and he is the king of the forgotten. And he is Megan's son, who is the Iron Queen of the Iron Realm in this fairy world. There's a new threat to the Never Never, and he asks Puck and Kieran's assassin, the three of them go and try and figure out what they can do to stop this new threat. They're not really sure what it is. Kieran's new assassin is Forgotten. She was the original lady's assassin who was the threat of the previous trilogy, but she's a brand new character in this world. We haven't seen her before. I'm currently reading a section where it's just her and Puck kind of like going, so we've already had some action. They've been confronted with something, and it's so dangerous that they, who are quite powerful fae in this world, couldn't even like fight it. And so they are right now going to the Iron Realm to ask Megan for help. As you can see, I'm like almost halfway through, not quite, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I have a soft spot for this series. We are introduced to characters that we've seen in previous books. Grimalkin is in this book. He was in like every single book of the series, and he's a very fun character to read. I just explained it and it sounds confusing. Like, I'm starting to wonder if maybe you have to read the other books, but maybe you don't. I don't know. But they pretty much explained it all, like the dynamics of the courts and who's in charge of what. And so it helped me remember everything. So I recommend this series. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm hoping to be able to read some more.
Left her home to find where she belongs. Her mother's scared to leave her all alone, but she got time and she knows what to figure out. This ain't in a dream, a place where it seems that love will come around. So don't stay.
So I finally finished The Iron Raven, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I really did. I just like being in this world, and I was thinking about it, and it's because I think the thing I like most about these stories is the world and the world building and the enemies that this group of allies have to face every time. And it's basically an adventure story. Every story in this series is an adventure story. They're always traveling. They're always having to go somewhere and like talk to an oracle or face a big bad, and or go on a quest. And that's every single story in this series, but I love it so much. I really enjoy it. I was just reminded how much I enjoy being in this world. So I love the Never Never. I love the quests that these people go on, and I love revisiting the characters over and over and over again. I'm not super crazy about the romances in this series. There's some times where like it really does get to me because there are some romantic moments in this series. But this one I was like fine with the romance. It didn't do anything for me, but I didn't hate it. I've been feeling that way for a lot of books lately. But the thing that gets me every time is the world building, the quests that they go on, the monsters that they fight, and kind of the found family that these group of people have. I enjoyed being in Puck's head, I think. Like, it was fine. It wasn't as like epic as I thought it was gonna be, but I enjoyed the quest. And I liked seeing his backstory. There were some glimpses, like flashbacks with him and Ash, and just kind of his origin story. So I did really enjoy that, and I kind of liked that he got to face his demons a bit and kind of finally get over some baggage that is introduced in the series. So I definitely really enjoyed this installment. I don't know if I can definitively say that you can just jump into this one because it does reference things of the previous series. They explain everything, so I don't think people would be like overly lost, but I don't know. So it would be kind of up to you. Personally, like if you don't mind reading like retro YA, like the first 3 books or so, because there are some like traditional YA tropes in the first 3 books when it comes to like love triangles, not like other girls and things like that. If that stuff doesn't bother you, then I would say read the entire series. I remember on the second read through, I wasn't a huge fan of book 2 because the love triangle gets kind of annoying. I would say read it for the world and the quests and the fighting monsters. That's my favorite part of the series. So in the end, I am giving this a 4-star rating. I do recommend it, but just a warning with traditional YA tropes. Speaking of traditional YA tropes, I think between the two, I am going to move on to Restore Me. This is book 4 in the Shatter Me series. So we'll see if I like this. I thought about going back and rereading like snippets of the original trilogy. I don't know if I'll do that or not, but I've thought about it. That's for sure. Oh, and speaking of which, like this is book 1 in a trilogy. It was pretty clear that there's going to be a sequel, and it's called The Iron Sword. So I'll be really excited to get to that.
And she knows what to figure out. The scene in a dream, a place where it seems that love will come around. So don't stay. You regret it all too much. Just wait. I will find you someday. So the same, yeah, she does not know that everything she got from her. You got time, and you know what to figure out. The scene in a dream, a place where it seems that love will come around. So don't stay. You regret it all too much. Just wait.
Hi. So I have a lot to update. It is Monday, so many days later. And I realized before I pick up Restore Me, I wanted to reread some sections in the trilogy. I read this a couple years back and I loved it. It was so much fun to read. It is such like a teen drama, soap opera kind of feel. And I remember I just like binge read this trilogy right away. I think I had all 3 books already, so it was easy for me to just fly through them, and it was just so much fun. I was definitely there for the drama. So these were a good time. I think I was like obsessed with book 1. I gave it, I think, 5 stars because it was so addicting. And then I gave like book 2 4 stars, and then 3 stars. Like after a while I was like, okay, here we go. Some of my favorite scenes are in book 2, and I'm totally like a Juliet Warner shipper for sure, and it was just a lot of fun. So while I was in the midst of reading this, I was like, I'm gonna read the entire thing, I just know it. And so without really thinking it through, I did pick up like the next 2 books, Restore Me and Defy Me, and then this novella thing, Find Me. I was rereading excerpts, sections in these books, and I was honestly just reading like Julia and Warner scenes because they're just so good. Like, it is really, really good and a lot of fun, and it was helpful to kind of remember things that happened. And so I picked up Restore Me yesterday, and I read, it's so like easy to read, you just fly through it. I got about up to 60 pages, and I wasn't sure how I was feeling. I wasn't really excited. I kind of didn't care. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to skim read some stuff. So I skim read for like another 110 pages. And I've decided to not finish the series. I'm not feeling it. I don't really care. I have a hair. Anyways, it's weird. This feels way more far-fetched, which is interesting to say, than the original trilogy. The original trilogy was pretty far-fetched already. Like, it's a dystopian, but she's like a supreme leader, and she's 17, and I just like can't, like, it's hard for me to swallow. And she has like no idea what she's doing. She knows absolutely nothing, and people act like she's not the leader, and she doesn't quite act like a leader either. And I think that's probably the story arc that we have here, but I just I don't know. I just not feeling it. I'm not sure if I'm excited for the direction of the series, and I kind of ultimately I just don't really care. So sadly, I am gonna not be continuing on with the series. But I can totally see myself rereading these. Like, if I really need a good dramatic love story, like, I'll definitely pick this up. So sadly, I'm DNFing a book in this vlog. So there's that. I forget why I was on Hoopla, but I was looking something up, and I noticed they had Neon Gods by Katee Roberts, and I've seen people talk about it, and I was intrigued because it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. Now, I was fully aware, for the most part, about Katee Roberts. I know she is more an erotic writer, but I wanted to see, like, is it that bad? Like, would it be okay for me? I gave it a fair shake, and I wasn't sure. Like, I've never really read Katee Roberts before, so I wanted to give it a try, and I love Hades and Persephone stories, so I gave it a try. I thought, like, well, maybe I'll just, like, you know, skip lots of stuff if I'm feeling uncomfortable, which I think is a valid point to take. And I got about 30% of the way through, not 30, like a third of the way through, and I think it's just not for me. Triple X, you know, spicy, and that's just not my level. I'm trying to learn where I fit in, like, the romance genre, where I feel comfortable, and that's just not where I'm sitting. I think I'm gonna be more of a traditionally published romances. I think that's my level of comfort when it comes to romances, and leaning probably closer to the cleaner side, but I think traditionally published romances is where I'm sitting at. I love my YA romances. I like the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I think that's where I am. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. But I think Katee Robert is not for me. I think that's just a little bit too much for me. So I gave it a try, though. Now I know. And I think I know where I'm sitting when it comes to romance. So I tried that. The original plan would have been to pick up Get a Clue. I'm not really sure what I'm feeling, like, having DNF'd since basically 2 books, and like I picked up a random book on a whim. It didn't work out. And I'm not even sure I'm really interested in Get a Clue. I don't know where I'm sitting right now. But I selected a few that I could possibly be interested in. So like I said, I might pick up Get a Clue. I'm not sure. I am in a romance mood, I think, so there is Well Played by Jen DeLuca. I'm also not sure if I'm in a fantasy mood. Like, what was the first book I read? I really enjoyed The Iron Fae, like The Iron Raven. So if I want an angsty romance but with elements of fantasy and historical romance or historical fiction, then Darkness, Strange and Lovely is a possibility. So this is book 2 in the Something Strange and Deadly series. And then I thought about maybe The Language of Thorns, because I think I might just want a quick read, and I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm feeling, but this is like short story fairy tale set in the Grisha universe. I was hoping to find an audiobook through my library, but I couldn't find anything, because it would have been nice just to listen to some stories while following along, but I couldn't find it. So I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. I might sit on it for a little while and see which direction I go.
Left her home to find where she belongs. Her mother's scared to leave her all alone. But she got time, and she knows what to figure out. Scene in a dream, a place where it seems that love will come around. So don't stay, you'll regret it all too much. Just wait, I will find you someday. So the same, yeah, she does not know that everything she got from her.
So, it's a new day, and I have a little bit of an update for you. So, I DNF'd 2 books. I was kind of in a slump a little bit yesterday. I find if I DNF a few books in a row, I just feel like bleh. And I didn't know what to pick up next. I wasn't really sure what I was in the mood for, so I asked on Instagram what you guys thought I should read next, if I should do fantasy or if I should do romance. And the winner was fantasy, so it was between the one I chose and A Darkness, Strange and Lovely, I think. And I decided to do the short story collection, The Language of Thorns. And I didn't get very far. I just read a few pages last night. I'm on page 25, and I'm really liking it. So they're like short stories, except the stories are way longer than I thought they would be, which is fine, and they're fairy tales. So the first one, I think they're influenced by traditional fairy tales, which I like, but the first one I'm not even sure. It's like a combination of 2 fairy tales. It's almost like Cinderella / Beauty and the Beast, maybe. I haven't finished it, so I'm not too sure if that's accurate or not, but I'm really enjoying it. This is definitely what I need. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 stories in here, and I'm probably at least halfway through the first one, so I'm enjoying it. It's definitely what I need after DNFing 2 books. So I think this will be the last book for the vlog, so I'm gonna be working on that today. But since I was like super slumpy, I went and got some books because I was just like, was I sad? I don't know. I just felt like buying books, so I went and bought books, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I did. And I ordered books online too, which probably shouldn't have done. So those will be coming in at some point. But let's just quickly go through them. The first 2 books are romances. The Fixer, I was needing this because I have the sequel in this series, and this is book 1, so I was very happy when I stumbled upon them. So I went to Goodwill and Value Village, and I found this at Value Village. So I don't even know what it's about, but it's the first in the series. Assuming romance and maybe office. Oh, a wealthy, dangerous, secretive man. And he specializes in making problems disappear. That sounds like fun. And then I found a Regency. I got No Good Duke Goes Unpunished. This is the 3rd book in the Rule of Scoundrels. And I tried reading one of her books, and it was a sequel. This is why I read books in order now, like in romances. And because I've heard like, oh, you don't have to read them in order, it's fine. And this specific series, you had to. And so when I was reading it, I'm like, what's going on? But this is book 3, so I'll have to get book 1, but I'm happy to have it. And I have, even though it didn't work out with the one book, I have read some short stories by her and do like them. So next I got the first book in the Dresden Files, which I'm really excited about. This is a series that I really want to try. I like urban fantasy a lot, and I like the tropes this has. So it's an urban fantasy, it's like a detective story about, there's like, it's set in Chicago. He's probably brooding and he's solving probably mythical problems. But he's a detective, and I think he's a warlock. There's so many books in here, and luckily with having access to thrift stores now, I can collect them all slowly. So yeah, and I know my husband is excited to read this too. He's read one of his books in the series and liked it, so I'm excited to have this. I got some retro, old school YA books. The first 2, I've had my eye on these forever. The minute I started reading fairies, I'm like, okay, I want to read these as well. So I found these. So this is Need by Carrie Jones. Something to do with fairies. No, but I want to read it. And then Wondrous Strange by Leslie Livingston, another fairy YA story I want to get to. Next I have a steampunk book, which is The Girl in the Steel Corset. Sorry. It is Victorian era, which is super exciting. Victorian England, steampunk, probably will have some magical abilities thrown in here. My favorite tropes ever, so I want to try this series. I got this because it gave me Disney Channel vibes, which I'm all for. It's To Catch a Prince, and there's actually 2 books in here. The second one is The Frog Prince, and it's probably going to be like a fun, campy YA romance about falling in love with a prince, which sounds like a lot of fun. And then I got The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson, and again, this is not set in Victorian era, but it's set in London, and this girl, she goes to a boarding school in London, and all of a sudden these murders start happening, and they're replicated by Jack the Ripper. So it's about her solving these murders, I guess, and it's a series, and I like all those things. The only thing is, like, I'm not a huge thriller reader because it is a thriller. So it's a YA thriller, and this murderer, I guess, is replicating Jack the Ripper murders, and so there you go. 2 more. I picked up The Princess Diaries. I've become a Star Wars fan last 5 to 10 years. No, probably last 5 years. Ever since the sequel series came out. And I would like to read this. I started listening to the audiobook and I didn't really get into it. But now I have it, and I think I would really like to read one of her memoirs and get her story from her perspective. So, and I know she kind of had a hard life. And so I'm curious, like, what she has to say. So excited to get to this. And lastly, I picked up a hardcover of The Night Circus. I wasn't sure whether or not I should do this because I actually have the paperback already, but it was like $2.50. So I thought, you know, like, it's not so bad. Like, it's a little worn, but there's no rips. It's just the dust jacket is a little crinkled, and like, it's a little loved, you know. little well loved, but it's still in decent condition. So I thought, you know what, like the hardcover would be nice to have. So I picked that up. So that is my little book haul. I may do some work first. I have to prep dinner early because it's slow cooker, so I'm going to be doing that. I need to do some social media stuff. So yeah, gotta get going.
She left her home to find where she belongs. Her mother's scared to leave her all alone, but she got time and she knows what to figure out. This ain't in a dream, a place where it seems that love will come around. So don't stay, you regret it all too much. Just wait, I will find you someday. So the same, yeah, she does not know that everything she got.
So it's time to finally close up this vlog to do the final update on this reading vlog. I finished The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. I can't even remember if I talked about this. I'm sure I have, but this is a short story collection of fairy tales, and they're a little bit twisty. Each story is kind of a retelling of traditional fairy tales as we know it. So the first one is like a mixture between Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella. There's a Hansel and Gretel retelling. There's a Little Mermaid kind of prequel story, and I really enjoyed this. I was burning out a little bit by the end, but for the most part, I enjoyed almost every story. So there's 6 in total, and some originate from different areas of the world in the Grishaverse world. So most of them are from Ravka, but there's one from Kirch, one from Zemeni, and one from Ferden, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then I read the final author's note. Some of them I don't know if they're kind of like, there's one about the 2 clever fox. I don't know what retelling that is, but I did enjoy it. I'm giving this 4 stars. My favorite one is the Hansel and Gretel one because the twist at the end just totally like threw me and freaked me out and was super creepy. But I liked the ending, and every story, every retelling is, I don't want to say twisted, but like, you know, there is some shock value in here, and she takes the tales and flip them on their heads, which is one of my favorite things in retellings. So the Hansel and Gretel one is The Witch of Duva. There was one that I was hoping would have been sapphic, but it ended up being asexual, if anything, like the twist at the end. So still pretty good. So I'm giving this 4 stars. Almost all of them were 4 stars except for the Hansel and Gretel one, and then the last one, the Little Mermaid one, I gave like a 3-star. But really solid. I really enjoyed it, and there is a character who kind of shows up in here, which I did really enjoy, but 4 stars. And then I did end up going back to Neon Gods. I don't know, I was too curious to not continue on, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I read it because it allowed me to explore this genre. So I would personally explain it as erotica. I've never read erotica before, and I'm kind of glad I did because now I know what I want to read and what I don't want to read within romance. And I do know that I don't enjoy erotica. I prefer the story of the romance. I prefer seeing the development of the relationship. And I felt like since it leaned more erotic, you didn't get as much development for the characters. I don't want to say there wasn't at all, because for being what it is, there is a lot of an emotional depth to the story, which I did really like. Those are the elements that I really, really enjoyed. And I wish we got more of that, but since it leans more erotic, it's just not for me. That's just not the level of steam that I enjoy. So it didn't quite work out for me. I wish there was more explanations for some like there wasn't really magic in here, but there was a little bit and it wasn't really explained. I liked how everything got a lot more fast paced near the end. And I enjoyed all that. I liked how Persephone like came into her own, and I wanted to see more of that. I was hoping that she would be a lot more badass than she was, and I liked them together, of course. Like, I love Hades and Persephone, so I enjoyed seeing them together, and I like seeing the soft side of Hades, and I like seeing the strong side of Persephone. So all those elements I really enjoyed, but I am ending up giving it a 3 stars. So I read those 2 books, and to wrap things up, so the Bookish Boyfriends Get a Clue, I'm going to save this for another reading vlog. I just wasn't in the mood. I was really in a fantasy mood. And so I will have to get to this at another time. But to wrap up this vlog, I started it off with The Iron Raven by Julie Kagawa, and I gave this 4 stars. And then I kind of reread or skim read the Shatter Me trilogy. So that was a lot of fun. And then I picked up Restore Me by Tahereh Mafi, and I ended up DNFing this. I won't be continuing on with the series. Then I picked up The Language of Thorns, Midnight Tales, and Dangerous Magic by Leigh Bardugo. I gave this 4 stars. And then finally, Neon Gods by Katee Roberts, and I gave that 3 stars. So that's the end of this reading vlog. I hope you all enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions about these books. If you read them before, if you did not, please comment down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not done so. You can follow me on Instagram and Goodreads, and you know what? I want you to keep reading. Bye.